Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's weekly energy boost. My name is Elisheva, and we are here with David and excited to share about a topic that's going to be influencing us all this week. That even in all of the years that we've been doing weekly energy boost, I'm not sure we dedicated an entire episode to, and that is the concept of being charitable. How charity makes one wealthy. And this week, we're given an opportunity to elevate our consciousness, our thoughts, our words, and our actions to a quantum leap, to a level that we perhaps didn't perceive possible. And the Kabbalists teach that one of the fast tracks to getting to a higher level of awareness is letting go in a ridiculous way. And charity is one of those actions, one of those steps that we can take in our lives that, if done well, if done properly, has the ability to change the game permanently. So we'll talk today a little bit about what that looks like, how to bring a more charitable mindset and consciousness into our everyday lives, and what to do I'm excited about this. This is sort of like a different way to spin it, is receiving as well, learning to receive.
Yeah, what's in it for us here? Because this just sounds like we're telling people, hey, go write a check.
No. This is not it. Well, for some people, it may involve writing a check, but the consciousness, which is the non-physical aspect of what we're talking about today, has nothing to do with checks or money,
right,
or anything in the physical. And so that's why it's a very important conversation to engage in, regardless of whether it's actually going to result in an action of giving or not. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where we provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical tools to navigate the coming 7 days. We do that by poring over the wisdom of Kabbalah and extracting the wisdom and tools that we feel are going to support you best. We also share personal stories from people that we've worked with, and of course, modern thought. And inevitably, every episode leaves you with wisdom and tools you can use any day of the week, any week of the year. And so this week, as we're in the middle of the month of Pisces. Pisces are also known to be very giving, almost to a fault, over-giving, losing themselves in relationships. And I know I've come across people who their giving is actually reactive, that when they sense a problem or tension or threat, they're automatic. I got to give. I got to volunteer. I got to share. Some people even stop working so that they can dedicate their lives to giving over or over giving. And
didn't we do that about 20, 30 years ago?
Well, I'm thinking of other people who I know that there's an imbalance there because their perception of what letting go or what creating circuitry is, they lean too much to one side and aren't in that middle level.
So why are the Pisces like that? And it's important because we're all feeling that energy for the next 60 days.
Well, the paradox is, according to not only Kabbalistic astrology, but also conventional astrology, Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac.
Right.
We start with the energy of Aries soon, and Pisces wraps up the energetic year. So what the Kabbalists teach is that the desire is strongest in the Aries and basically wanes as you get to the end. So it's like diluting
It's kind of like as somebody gets older, technically their desire begins to wane.
Often it does. And so one of the challenges that typical Pisces will encounter is having desire, wanting for the self, having drive and passion and direction, because they're really good with whatever. Like, they're here to flow, man. That's peace, love, and understanding. That's why they lose
themselves to other people.
Absolutely.
That plus the people-pleasing aspect, it's a dangerous combination.
There's definitely an element of, in order to express my value, I have to be doing something, that my intrinsic value isn't expressed unless I am in service.
I am valuable. My value is contingent upon how much service I've done.
Exactly. And again, who wouldn't love to have a friend like that, a partner like that? That's, we're the ideal, relationship.
Yeah.
However, with somebody who's on the other end of the spectrum that's interested in taking and using and being served,
Yeah.
it can be a very unhealthy situation.
Yep, that makes total sense. Well, one of the things that we always try to do on these podcasts is to expand into the deeper understanding of whatever concept we're talking about. And in this case, giving, I think it's important to kind of zoom out and understand Kabbalistically what is our purpose here and why giving plays into that purpose. We've learned in Kabbalah 1, for those of you who are listening, that is the course, whether you take it live or as a masterclass, Kabbalah1.com, that we explain the secrets of life and the purpose of why the soul came to this world. And the soul's purpose essentially is really one thing. It came as a desire to receive the infinite force of the Creator that we call the light of the Creator. We came in as receivers. But in order to receive, we have to become like the light force, which is a giving force. It's kind of a paradox. The way to receive is to become a giver. And so the technology of Kabbalah explains in depth how this happens and how this occurs and how we can do it. Intellectually, people understand it. But when you get down into it, the hand-to-hand combat that is a result of trying to become that giver is actually very nuanced, and the technology is very important to learn kind of in depth, and that's why Kabbalah is so powerful. So really what it means is, as we transform our nature, as we transform our negativity, as we learn to not be reactive beings, our nature receives what's called a second nature, a second level of the soul. We call this the circular vessel, the circular soul. And what a lot of people don't know is, as you both change your negativity and call out to the Creator and ask for help, you receive this new essence. Now, this new essence enjoys giving as much as the prior essence enjoyed receiving. Because most people in this world, we enjoy being receivers. Even the giving most people do, it's because they have an agenda and they're trying to receive something. True unconditional giving comes from the second essence that is waiting for us, that we download once we both transform who we are and pray, ask the Creator for the second essence. And I think that's what's important about what we're talking about. You need to be praying and asking the universe, asking the Creator to give you this updated software. Essentially, like, I got a ping from my phone today that says a new software is available to download tonight. It will download on your phone. And we should know there's a higher version of ourselves that is much more in line with the Creator that we can draw and download. But we need to be conscious of the fact that it exists and desire it.
And it's interesting because that, I don't want to know if the right word is trade-off, but it's like that willingness to let go of the old patterns, the old habits, the old neediness, the old operating system actually frees up more space. Like that metaphor works perfectly, right? Sometimes your phone will even tell you don't have any space here to download more. And what I think what's great about that metaphor is that we are in a constant state of desiring, unfortunately, very often short-term fulfillment. The recognition, the acknowledgement, the assurance, the praise or the validation, going back to the Pisces thing, that you are needed, valued, loved, worthy. The paradox is that kind of receiving is very fleeting, right? You feel good. Someone gives you a compliment, and 10 minutes later, you feel bad about the way you look. You're worried that you're not dressed the right way, or you gained weight, or whatever the perception is. The external filling up is never enough. And I was just studying, actually, apropos the deeper aspects of Kabbalah. I was studying this 10 Luminous Emanations recording, and the conversation was around this idea that the universe, the Creator, can give us anything in an instant, right? If the source of all goodness, the iOS behind the cosmos, is obviously capable of doing anything at any moment, yet we're given the opportunity to be the creators, to be the initiators, to earn, to evolve, and to activate. And the paradox is that no matter how much we ever do, we can never truly earn the goodness that we receive. And the Creator could have done anything. It could have organized the universe in any way, but chose specifically to give us the opportunity to create. And the reason I'm bringing this example up is because prior to listening to this morning, I was thinking about the idea that the reason we learn in Kabbalah that the action of giving, or the mechanism, I'll call it, of giving, is more for the giver than the receiver. So what does that mean? When let's say I have a dozen cookies and I find 11 people who are hungry, you would think that the 11 cookies that I'm able to share are the commodity, is that of value which I am distributing. Kabbalah comes and says, no, the blessing, the goodness, the reward is actually given to the person who gave the cookies more than the receiver. And there's a beautiful story that the Kabbalists teach about a very wealthy person who sees somebody, unhoused person on the street, and wants to take care of them and is begging them, please come stay in my house. Please let me feed you. Let me clothe you. Take a shower. Have a clean bed to sleep in. And the unhoused person is saying, but I don't want any of those things. I'm really good where I'm at. I like my life. Thank you very much. And there's this whole argument that they go through. And eventually the unhoused person says, fine, I'll come. And what a reward, how good the giver feels, or the blessing that is then resting on the giver. It's almost like at that moment, the wealthy person with the house and the food and the shower and the bed becomes the creator. And David started with the point of, we're here to be like the creator. The creator is an endless force of giving and sharing. We're only truly fulfilling our potential when we're in that state of giving, influencing, creating, being the cause of goodness in the world. And that responsibility, or that purpose, is constantly at odds with the selfish nature of the body that wants to eat, sleep, drink, recognition, physical pleasure, relief from pain. And so part of the formula that the Kabbalists teach is that we need to train ourselves to look at giving as the medicine rather than the punishment, rather than the pain, right? And I wrote down a study, we can talk about it a little bit afterwards, but the lower the income, the higher of the percentage of charitable giving. A lot of people think, when I have, I'll give. Mm-hmm. It's actually the opposite statistically, that people who make less are more inclined to give a higher percentage of what they make than people who make larger salaries or have larger income. And to me, it's very much an illustration of that idea that the desire to receive, to seek comfort, to be placated often drowns out the noise of the soul telling us, you're here to give, you're here to bequeath, you're here to influence.
And one of the things that we would challenge all our listeners and ourselves is to make it simple. Are you more of a producer or a consumer? Because at the end of the day, a healthy economy consists of those who produce more than they consume, and that's what creates growth. As soon as you consume more than you produce in any kind of relationship, you're bringing the energy of death to that relationship. You're bringing the energy of death to the business. If you think of the rise and fall of great empires and the rise and fall of big companies that used to rule the world, like ceased to exist 10, 20, 30 years
Ottoman
later.
Empire.
And that's the point. The point is that these companies, what brought their rise was their desire to give and share, create products that add value. It was all about the consumer. How do I understand the vessel, the desire of the consumer?
To interrupt the industry, right? To break an old way of doing things that will benefit more people, more... what do they call it? The fourth drive, the third drive, that there's that desire to leave an impact,
That's right.
to make your mark, to feel like you're contributing. It's no longer capitalism and consumerism that drives people. It's, I want to feel good about what I'm doing.
The owner's pure desire to really solve a problem draws down the wisdom and the strength to be a producer. And this will go on for years and years. And then there's a transition that happens. Often it can be when people take investments or private equity. You bring in partners where their goal is something different. It's profits over progress. And so the consciousness can shift to being, well, how do I take from my audience? How do I squeeze more out of them? How do I degrade the ingredient? And then you become a consumer more than you're a producer, and that's the end of the company. That's the beginning of the end of the company.
Okay, how can we apply that to a person that's not running a company?
Well, we should look at every part of our lives. Think of even children. I think, and this could be a controversial topic for people, but are parents giving more to their children than they are receiving from their children, right? We could have the consciousness of using our children for our identity, using them just to feel good, using them even for a hug, to feel something. And the consciousness needs to be, how much of myself am I willing to let go of my ego to grow this soul outside of myself? I think probably in the early years, and you would obviously know better, where the child has very little to give you, but you have to be on call 24/7 as soon as they're born, right? So there's this producer energy that overrides the consumer energy. But as time goes on, that could shift. And I've seen that. I talk to people all day long. I just made a post about it where people are constantly complaining about their parents and what they did and the abuse and what they weren't there for and their selfishness and this and that. So in your relationship with your kids, do your kids feel like they are receiving more than maybe they're contributing back to you? That's one. You can think of romantic relationships in the same way. Pretty much anything that I've realized is healthy, there's a desire to give more than there is to receive from that person.
Right. And I think especially when it comes to interpersonal relationships, when you look back at the balance of giving and receiving or sharing and taking, a lot of us are raised, apropos from our parents, to think of relationships as transactional. When you give me what I want, I will give you love. When you behave, you will. When you don't behave, I won't be as loving. And so the Kabbalistic remedy for that is what the Zohar calls without calculating, without sparing for one's own, something like that. That if you're giving, and this is something that I learned and I've witnessed firsthand from our teacher, Karen Berg, that when you have the opportunity to share with someone, how much you share or how much you withhold isn't between you and the other person. And that's a big shift, I think, for all of us, to work to shift into a more charitable mindset. It's to realize that if I'm going to write a check, or if I'm going to spend 2 hours with a person, or if I'm going to invest my time and energy into a project or a company, that's not between me and the company. That's between me and the universe, me and the creator. My accounting system is with me and the creator, not me and the individuals in my life. If the opportunity to share is uniquely for me, I will take it. But so many times I work with people, and it's funny, especially adult children taking care of their parents, have the mindset of, if I don't do it, no one else will. If any of your goodness, kindness, caring is motivated by no one else is going to do it, it's not, you become the consumer. There's a certain medal of martyrdom that you get because you did what no one else would do. And that removes that blessing and that energy of goodness from the potential to use that situation as an opportunity to give. And part of what this week is asking us to do is to raise our consciousness and our mindset about why we give. We don't give because it's needed. It makes me think of when I was younger. When I was younger and you stay up watching late night TV and there's commercials for like the ASPCA and different like humane society asking you to sponsor a dog who's been abused, and Sarah McLachlan is singing this heart-wrenching song and you can't help but take out your check or whatever. The reactive giving that we do in our lives right? The no one else is going to do it, or the poor, desperate. Sometimes we do it out of guilt because we have and others don't. When we give out of lack, out of our own pain, it stops being giving. It starts being I don't know, pharmaceutical drug that can give us relief so that our guilt is alleviated, or our feeling ashamed, or whatever the backstory is. We deprive ourselves of the goodness that can be ours from the giving, the miracles that can be ours from the giving, because we're turning it into a quick fix, a pill, a remedy for some sort of emotional suffering we're experiencing.
One of the ways that the great Kabbalist Rav Ashlag recommends to have the strength to give, because I think this is the big issue. People give, there's two things actually. People give, and then they look to receive from the person. It's important for that person to create circuitry, no doubt, but your primary receiving should be from the creator. So I always talk about this concept of invoicing the creator. I give and I let go from the person. I'm not looking to take from the person. Yes, it is good for the person to find a way to give back, because for the sake of circuitry and earning the energy, but it's not my business. I'm going to invoice the creator. I know that the creator is going to bring this energy back in some way. Knowing that gives me the strength to continue this work. That's number one. Number two, we feel energized in our giving when we respect and have admiration for the person we give to. So for example, if someone you did not respect asked you, hey, Elisheva, can you go make me a cup of coffee? You would probably roll your eyes, sigh, but because you're such a Kabbalist, you're like, fine, I'll go do it. If you even would go do it. Now, what if someone like maybe your teacher or your mentor, someone you love, or your parents say, Elisheva, can you make me a cup of coffee? You would jump to your feet and do it. And you would bring the coffee to them in a way that you almost felt like you had the pleasure. It's almost like if the president of your country called you and said, I need your advice. Can you come to the White House? Can you come to my palace? Like the king said, you wouldn't be like, oh gosh, I gotta deal with this. I gotta get on a plane and go to Washington, D.C. No, you would feel that you're serving your country. It's interesting. A lot of people who enter politics often are making so much money in the private sector, millions and millions of dollars. I know someone who was making $10 million, and then the president says to him, can you come into my cabinet? What do they make? $200,000 a year? But you're serving a mission. You have admiration and respect for your country, for your president, for something
But that's
bigger.
what I mean when I before I consciously chose the word influence, because when you're able to influence on a larger scale, that's one of the highest forms of sharing.
And then you feel the energy from that.
Right.
Because the biggest issue is people stop their giving because they feel drained, or they feel like they're not getting something from it. And all of that is a limited mindset. I agree there are areas we should learn to stop giving. And as we become pure inside of our own soul, we will have more clarity about who should receive and who shouldn't. At the end of the day, if you truly cleanse yourself, you realize that everything you have is the creator's, and so it needs to be protected and given in the right way. It's not about you, so to speak. So that would be just like my final advice as we kind of wrap this up. It's, do you have admiration and respect? That could be the missing key of why you feel drained. And often the respect for the people we are closest to and that we love is the one that starts to deteriorate the most. And you just do not feel as inspired to give and to take care of them and to find ways to nurture them.
What classifies something as charitable? What takes, even if you are writing a check, I can write a check and it can be a nice thing to do. What makes something charity versus any other kind of giving?
One of the things that we explain is that there's 3 levels to the impact people can make. And there's the giving on the level of the body, the giving on the level of the mind and the emotion, and then it's the giving on the level of the soul. I think part of what inspired us to literally give up our lives to spread the wisdom of Kabbalah is, at least for me, it appealed to the fact that I'm not giving something to someone that's just appealing to their body or their mind, even though Kabbalah helps with both of those. Learning Kabbalah can help you with your health. It can help you with your emotions, no doubt. But the power of Kabbalah helps you understand your soul and your mission in this world. There's nothing more powerful than that. There's no greater gift you can give someone. If I have 1 hour to spend, I admire what the Red Cross does. I admire what many charities do. But if I have only 1 hour to spare, I want to find a way to heal the soul and give people the tools to empower their soul, because once the soul is healthy, then the mind and the body are healthy as well.
That to me is even as a young person, before deciding this is my path, I volunteered for the Red Cross, and I volunteered for AIDS Project LA, and I volunteered for the American Heart Association. I went out and I looked at all the different ways and things that I could make a difference. And one of the things that struck me was, if I have that 1 hour, I have that $100, how can I maximize it? Where can I use it? Or how can I put it to use so that it will have the maximum impact? And I think if there's one bit of advice we can share with everyone going into this week where we can level it up, as you go into the week and you see the opportunities to affect others, to give to others, to share, to contribute, ask yourself, is this between me and the other person? We call it horizontal. Is this a horizontal action of giving, or is it a vertical one? Is this action that I'm about to do, or this time I'm about to spend, going to bring me closer to the light, going to strengthen my soul? That's the vertical, elevating upward, versus it's between me and other people. I'm keeping score. They're keeping score. I'm one-upping. I can't stand how bad I feel about myself, so I've got to do something to feel better. Keep that in mind as you face this week's opportunities and challenges. And if you pass the test, if you shift it into that vertical mindset, that vertical space, you will see not only the impact on the other people that you're giving to, but also a deep and powerful impact for you personally. Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow us on those channels and you'll receive additional content throughout the week to help you live this wisdom. We also invite you to visit our website, weeklyenergyboost.com, where you can learn more about the things we talk about in every episode, as well as click the donate button and support our podcast. Through your help, we're not only reaching more people, but we're actually expanding our reach. And it's really wonderful to have that support. And we want to thank everybody who's being there for us and being there for the world in getting the word out there. And of course, the most powerful thing you can do is share this episode. If you haven't already rated and reviewed us wherever you're listening, we would love for you to do that as well. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.